Okay. Good afternoon. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. I have a couple of things that I want to say before we go into the questions and answers. Every now and again it becomes necessary for me to refresh the idea underlying the work that we do, and the fact that it is all done on a gift basis. It is all an expression of extension, without hooks, without encumbrances of any kind, without manipulation, let us say. And from time to time, the need for support presents itself more strongly than others. And when that happens, it means that the foundation is not in a position to make the extension easily. The foundation, Paul, Susan, Chris, everyone who's involved in doing the work, find themselves at a point where there are insufficient funds to continue without the support of those who find the work we're doing of value. Now, some say, well, Raj, why don't you work a miracle? And I'm going to ask you, whoever would say that, what makes you think I'm not? Do you mean, why don't I make a miracle that doesn't involve you? Why don't I make a miracle so that Paul wins $1 million in the lottery or $5 million? And I know others have said, well, why should I get in touch with my guide if Paul continues to have money problems just like I am, or the foundation has money problems just like I am? It's a good question. You've got to remember what a miracle is. A miracle is a sudden shift of perception in which ignorances that had bound you are replaced with understanding that causes you no longer to be bound. Well, where is this sudden shift of perception going to occur? In my mind? Or in yours? Is it something that's going to be done to you? Or is it something that you're going to allow to happen within yourself? Is it something that you're going to dare to become undefended against by being willing to let go of your confidences about how things work, so that the way things really work can register with you, in place of the way you've insisted they must work, which has constituted a framework that you are only willing to work within. You blind yourselves, all of you, to reality at this moment. And of course, I keep saying this over and over. The only thing confronting you is reality. The only thing confronting you is the kingdom of heaven. And every single one of you are the direct expression of God. Therefore, each one of you is the Christ. But you're so sure you're not, and you're even surer that your brother is not, or your mother is not, or your father is not. You're absolutely positive. And you see only what you're willing to believe is there to see. And so you look out and you say, this is a material world. It started from a big bang. It's a physical process that is not in any way spiritual, is not in any way really divine, and you can't wait until you can pass on so you can go to glory and be out of this awful place. Well, I'll tell you something. When you go on to glory, you're not suddenly going to abandon your confidences about things, because you're still going to be in the same place you've been while you were here, right in the middle of the kingdom of heaven. And you're going to look around in so many words and you're going to say, wow, this doesn't look that much different. And the only reason it won't look different is because you're still looking through the same mindsets that you had been looking at the kingdom of heaven while you were here. Now, the only reason that I can talk to you like this is because Paul loves enough to let me. Loves who? Me? Yes. But he could talk to me in his bedroom, and no one might ever know it's happening. So the fact that he's here letting me speak with you is because he loves you. And I've said this before. It isn't so much the words that you hear me say, it's the love that Paul and I together are embodying on your behalf. It's not the words that are transformational, it's the love that's being embodied. Now, love should be reflected in love. In other words, the love that's extended should find an expression of love returning. If the love that's being extended to you is being received, because you can't have the love that's being extended to you if you don't pass it on. Until you give it away, it doesn't become yours. Why? Because also, as I've said before, you remain a closet Christ. You don't stand up and be counted by embodying it. By expressing it. Which is going to have some bearing on the second thing I want to talk about. But the miracle that I am encouraging, the sudden shift of perception that I'm encouraging, is the realization on your parts, not just yours here in the room, but everyone listening on the internet and everyone who will hear the audio tapes or CDs. Um, the miracle I am working is the bringing about of a shift of perception on everyone's part, that there's a way to be with each other that is not transactional. I will do this if you will do that. You see, Paul doesn't say, I will give Raj's words, Raj's voice, if everyone will support. The gift is made and made and made with no requirement of response or exchange, you see. And he does it until, like last Tuesday, there was only $160 in the bank account, the foundation's bank account. And no money for food for the gathering. And of course the ego says, Paul, you don't really like doing this. You don't really like living this way. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. Raj should be working a miracle here. And you know what? You're feeling really down in the dumps. You're feeling really discouraged, and that's what the ego does. It hypnotically suggests. Except it doesn't say, you don't feel good. In your mind it says, I'm really discouraged. And you don't know it's not your own voice. You don't recognize that it's the voice of the other teacher instead of the voice for truth. But Paul didn't act on that. He comes to me and he says, are we supposed to have the gathering this weekend? And I said, of course. You don't want to miss it. So he proceeded. And although there's $1,900 in the bank account today, most of which is already spoken for, as you see, there is abundance of food for everyone, although most everyone had to really hustle at the last minute to get it together. But there is commitment here. There is willingness to extend when there are all kinds of arguments to the contrary, to stop extending. There's an interesting concept, it's been around for quite a while, regarding what's called intellectual property. Property is something you own, and property is something you can sell. Property that you own and can sell is something that you have a personal right to, a legal right to. And what I'm approaching here is the difference between extending love in a non-transactional mode and trying to find a way to translate love into some kind of property. Let's say intellectual property, words. Certainly, we could take all of my words, bind them in a book, and write copyright 2004 and claim it as property that no one has a right to until they pay for it, and then sell it. And then it becomes the property, the copy becomes a property of the person who's bought it. But the minute you take, or try to take, love, or the form in which love has taken form, in other words, words that can be printed on a page, or sounds that can be imprinted on a CD or a audio tape, the minute you take that and treat it as property and sell it as a transaction, something else happens. The one who owns it has to defend it, to see that it isn't misused, so that no one else is making money from it, because they have no right to do that. And then you have to become a policeman. And I'll tell you something, engaging in that is the furthest thing from the experience of love that you can get. And also because someone thinks they have purchased it, they never ever have to come into any awareness of their involvement in an exchange of love. The miracle I am engaged in promoting is the shift of perception wherein one might dare to consider the possibility that in abandoning all means of control and letting oneself yield into the movement of the flow of love, which means really being in harmony with the movement of God, that this just might constitute a truer way of being than the current mode that's being practiced. Transactional involvements are really, at the bottom line, a defense. A defense against poverty, a defense against failure. You see, if you can make $1 million, you're not a failure, are you? If you can't make $1 million, you must be a failure. So, let's find something really neat. Let's find something that most people will say is really valuable, and let's soak the hell out of them and get as much as we can for it, so that we won't be poor, and so that we will be recognizable as a success and have respect. So, transactional business is a defense. There's no love in it. Everybody could look at Paul and say, well, if what Paul is doing is love, that's pretty risky. Well, of course, that is what one who is conditioned to constantly be in a state of self-defense would say. That is something that someone who's been trained to think that the better exercise of control that they can bring into play, the more respectable they will be. And the better show of success they have, the more respect they will have. And so their sense of their worth depends upon constantly being in a state of defense defending themselves against who? All the other insensitive, crass, materialistic human beings who will take advantage if they have half a chance. Well, why does that one see everybody else that way? Because he says that's the way he is too. He knows that's the way he thinks too. He's been taught if you have the opportunity to take advantage or get a little bit more than something is really worth, go for it. If the other person doesn't know it's not worth that much, well, that's his stupidity. He'll have to learn. You see? And I'll tell you something, always being out from a fundamental state of self-defense elicits self-defense from your world, and it also doesn't transform anything. It doesn't contribute to the situation in the world moving into all of the best of everything that everybody says they want. No one is being an agent for change or improvement. They are behaving in a way that maintains the status quo and keeps everybody in what they call the human condition that they can't wait to get out of. Well, you won't get out of it until you start behaving in a new way or until you have experienced a sudden shift of perception that says, there's another way to look at this. There's another way for me to be. There's another basis upon which I can act. A gift that's given freely, in order to be fully received, must be given away. Then it becomes yours. Now, it's very simple because we will not ever move into a transactional setup where any of the work we do becomes available at a price, where you can't have it until you pay. And there will never be a price associated with it. There will never be any strings attached. And in order to do that, everyone's support is needed. Well, the subtle argument is, well, what's so different about that? You see, I'm still having to pay. Now, you're having to love. You're having to recognize that there's a part you play that keeps the gift free from the encumbrances of cost, free of the encumbrances of the subtle development of self-protection that would tend to come into play if everything shifted to a monetary transactional basis. The only way this can remain a gift being given is if it's a gift all the way through. And so, to put it simply, help is needed. There is new audio equipment that needs to be purchased in order to provide better quality audio tapes and CDs and internet access. Property taxes come up October 31st in the amount of $2,400, of which, obviously, if there was only $160 available last Wednesday or Tuesday, isn't sitting there ready to be paid. These are basic needs, necessary. And so help. I am asking for help. I am asking everyone to join in making the gift available without strings. I'm asking everyone to participate in keeping a movement of gift occurring without any of the folderol or complications associated with transactional business, property rights, and self-protection. Because that leaves the gift clearly setting there as a gift. A gift that everyone is engaging in making available. Now, some may think what I'm going to say to be crass and unchristlike. But I want to point out to you that when you get in touch with the Holy Spirit, or you get in touch with your guide, or you get in touch with me, the guidance you will get will be very practical. Practical like this. On the table at the head of the stairs is a contribution bowl. And you are invited to perhaps dig a little more deeply in your pocket than you might usually do to help keep the gift moving. And for those of you on the internet, on the home page of the Foundation's website, there is a contribution button that you can click and make a contribution there. Okay. Now the second thing is, just a moment. Before our next gathering, you who live in the United States will have had an election. And I'm going to save you from asking any questions about it. By pointing out to you that you have a representative government, don't laugh. Your government is set up to represent who? Each one of you. Someone here today was wanting to ask, who should I vote for? And if you had asked it, I would say what I'm going to say now. I'm not going to tell you. Because you each have to be willing to stand up and be counted. You each have to become involved. And voice your position. And you had better not be asking someone else what your position ought to be, because if you do and you follow that, you will not have expressed your position, and your government will not be representative of you. Now, care enough about your environment, about your world, to participate by having a position and voicing it. Else your nebulousness, your vagueness, will become embodied in vagueness.